Okay, it's our third video on absolute value functions and what we're, oh man, I didn't erase what I was supposed to. Okay. Oh goodness, one more thing. That shouldn't be there. Sorry. This is take, oh, this isn't, that shouldn't be there. I'm such a failure. Okay, sweet. We're back. All right. Whew. Redo. Basic parent function. Third video that you've seen of this. Now we're not going to shift left and right. That would be horizontal shift. We're not going to go up and down. That would be vertical shift. We're going to do some crazy, abnormal, weird things with this. We're going to make it nice and narrow, skinny. I don't know what word you want to use for it, but it's going to make it really tall. There's a good one. Okay. Or we're going to make it extremely obese, really wide, fat, whatever you want to call it. We can make that V look like this. How cool is that? Or we can make it look like this. How cool is that? I know you're thinking it's the coolest stuff ever. And I don't know why I'm looking at this. It's a mustache. Eyeballs. I'm an artist too. Sorry, I'm squirrel. Like sunglasses. They're kind of looking like a Ninja Turtle. Oh no, I ruined it. I don't even know what that became. All right, sorry, I got off task. Okay, back to what I was saying. We're gonna make it either skinny or we're gonna make it really wide. We can also flip this bad boy upside down, make it look like a mountaintop, like that. Okay, right now it's as basic as it gets. We got to go to our very equation that shows us x minus h plus k. Okay, so each one of these, A, H, and K, tell us something to do. Now, in my previous video, I showed you that the K is going to tell us how to go up or down. If it's positive, we're going up. If it's negative, we're going down. Negative H, because it says minus H or negative H, it's the opposite. So if it says minus, you're actually going to be going to the right. If it says add or positive, you're going to be going to the left. So you got to think opposite with that one. Now, A is the one we're going to be dealing with today. Now, A can do three different things. It can make it skinny, it can make it wide, or it can flip it upside down. And it can really do both. It can flip it upside down and make it wide at the same time. So we just need to really focus on what A does here in this video. And then we'll get to the point after this in my next video where we can do all three of these things. So we could shift it to the left, shift it up, make it wide, and flip it upside down if we wanted to. Okay, and that's basically where you're going to be going in an algebra class. So by the end of the chapter, that's what we'd hope most of our students can accomplish. Okay, so parent function, what's a very basic thing I can do it? I'm going to copy it down in a different color here, okay, on this graph, because this one's going to get all muddied up. We're going to have a lot going on here by the end of this video. But if I were to say y equals negative times the absolute value of x, that negative right there is going to take all my values and it's just going to flip everything upside down. Okay, because if you think about it, right now, if we put a 2 in right there, it becomes a 2. The absolute value of 2 is 2. Even if I put a negative 2 into there, it becomes a positive 2. That's why when we go to negative 2 on the x, we go up to positive 2 on the y, and it creates this v. Okay, but here, what we do is we take the absolute value first, and then we multiply it by the outside symbol, which in this case is a negative. So, for example, for x, I put in negative 2. I'm going to take the absolute value of that, and then I'm going to multiply it by this negative at the very end. So let's do that right now. Let's all think, what is the absolute value of negative 2? It becomes a positive 2. But we can't forget, outside we had that negative being multiplied by our answer, and a negative times a positive will create a negative. So when I put negative 2 in for x, if I go back to, sorry, let's do it on this one. If I go back 2, my answer is going to be negative 2, which means I should go down 2. Right there like that. Same with negative 1. It would come out to negative 1. 0 would come out to 0. 1 would come out to -1. That's where it gets kind of tricky, right? Put a 1 in right there. What's the absolute value of 1? 1. But then at the end, you're multiplying it by this negative symbol, so it becomes a -1. And what we create here is an upside down v, because we're multiplying by a negative. So long story short, multiply by a negative on the outside as the a, and you will flip that v upside down. Okay, we'll do a little flipperooski. Now, what if we multiply by something that's not just negative, but it's an actual number? Okay, so I'm going to give you two types of numbers. We are going to multiply by 1/4, and then I'm going to have you multiply by a whole number. So we're starting with a fraction. Okay, you kind of want to think of this as your slope. It's basically what it's going to do. Now, if you know your slope-intercept form really well, if we had y equals 1/4 x plus 2, you'd start up at 2, and then you would rise 1 and run 4, meaning your line is not going to be super steep. You'd start at 2, rise 1, run 4. You're running more than you're rising, so you don't have a super steep line. Okay? Now, basically what we're doing is we're creating this soft slant, but then we're going to V it out on the other side because everything's going to end up being positive. All right, so hopefully that's making a little bit of sense. Now I'm going to show it to you. Let's work this out. If I put a 0 in, times it by 1/4, I'm going to end up getting 0. That's the basic one. We still stay at the origin because we haven't added anything here or subtracted, or added or subtracted anything here. There is no h and there is no k in this equation. Okay, so we're not shifting left, we're not shifting right, we're not going up, we're not going down. We are just going to widen out right here with a fraction. Okay, we're going to widen out because let's put a 4 in for x. I'm going to work this out over here. Y equals 1/4 times 4. We do the absolute value part first, and then we multiply it by the outside term, which is represented by the a in this equation. 4, the absolute value of 4 is 4. We multiply 4 by 1/4, and we're going to get 1. So when we put x as a 4, go 4 over on the x-axis, 4 over, and we're going to end up getting the answer of 1. So we're going to go 4 over and 1 up. So we're going to create this part of the line. It's going to continue on. Oh gosh, I made that really wide. Okay. And then we're going to take, let's say -4. If I change that to a -4, does anything in my work down below change? Does -4's absolute value, the absolute value of -4, stay 4? Absolutely, because taking the absolute value of something keeps it a positive. So now we're just dealing with 4 times 1/4, and again, we're going to get 1. So if I go to -4 on the x, I'm only going to go up 1. And there we have our very wide v. Okay, so that was making it really fat. Now we flipped it in blue using a negative. We made it really wide by multiplying by a fraction. And if I want to make it narrow or skinny, I'm going to multiply by a whole number. Okay, so what we're going to do is change 1/4 right now to 4. Multiply it by a whole number. Y equals 4 times whatever we choose for x. Let's pick a low number for x, 1. Put a 1 right there for x, meaning we're only going to go over 1 on the x-axis, and it will tell us how high up to go. Okay, if I put a 1 right there, the absolute value of 1, y equals 4 times the absolute value of the number we choose, 1. Well, the absolute value of 1 is 1. And now we need to multiply it by 4. And 4 times 1 is 4. So y would equal 4 when x equaled 1. We're going to go 1 over and 4 up. We're going to create this line. Put a -1 in right there. I change that to a negative. Does that change anything at all? Look at that. Take a peek. -1. The absolute value of -1 is, hey, 1. Same. We're in the exact same ballpark we were before. Multiply that by 4, we're going to get y equals 4. So now when I put a -1 in for x, I go back 1, but I'm still going to go up 4. And there we have a nice skinny v. So we widened this out. This is our parent function. All we did to it was we made it really wide by multiplying by a fraction. We made it very skinny by multiplying by a whole number. There's your basics of what the a will do. Okay, and you're going to get to a point where we're going to be asking you to work with an a, an h, and a k. But as long as you know this flips it, makes it skinny or makes it wide, this will move it left or right, and that will move it up or down, you're going to rock it. Okay, hope you all are going to do awesome on your upcoming test.